to share information with you on public speaking and basically how you can have more confidence and be more effective in providing presentations and helpful information to enhance your career as well as other opportunities that you might seek. So we will get started. And the first thing that I always share with individuals is to have confidence, because one of the barriers for individuals in being awesome presenters is that there's sometimes a fear. And I have been speaking in corporate arenas as well as for nonprofit organizations and many other types of settings for over 20 years. I want to tell you, I still get a little fearful and nervous. So that's a common thing. But for the whole purpose of speaking is to convey information. And when you speak, you are automatically seen as the authority, and you are able to gain respect with your peers, with other colleagues, with business associates, and with clients. So it's very important to have confidence, because the energy that you have will introduce you even before you speak. So public speaking also gives you an opportunity to shine. So if I were to say, you have an opportunity tomorrow to speak in front of 100 people, how might that make you feel? For some people, it might make them tremble. But we're going to discuss ways on how you can be more successful. So this is a quote that shares that if you hear a voice within you say you can't paint, then by all means paint, and that voice will be silenced. So in other words, if you have a fear or resistance about something, then go ahead and do it, because once you do it, then that will dissipate and you will be able to be successful or at least get over that fear that you might have felt. So let's talk about how you face that fear, gain more confidence, and be able to be strong in terms of being able to present to an audience. So I always tell individuals to start in small steps, right? So you may want to talk to strangers on a one-on-one basis. This is true for me. A couple of weeks ago, I was at the nail salon and I started a conversation with the young lady sitting right next to me. And we had a wonderful discussion. And I found out that she's a local distributor of Mary Kay Cosmetics, and that led to an opportunity for me to present to her. So to will lead to an opportunity for me to present to her cluster of friends. So I should say friends, but her team. And so, you can start small by talking to strangers one on one, because in some settings, especially if you're doing a presentation for an organization, you won't know all of the audience members. Also, speak to small groups. So, getting started, start small. And you can speak to maybe if you have children, your class, the children in the class, there's career days. You could also speak to nonprofit organizations, maybe go to a nursing home. Other ideas are shelters or libraries. You may even consider church. I know that's where I learned some of my first, I had some of my first opportunities as a speaker as a young girl. And also, there's local colleges usually have different courses that you can take. So, for example, you can register. They usually come through the high school, and they're like $25 for 3 weeks on. Maybe it's arts and crafts or jewelry making. But maybe you know contact your local college to learn about putting together some type of presentation course and get some practice that way. And then as you progress, then you will seek to speak to larger and larger groups, and that will provide you with opportunities to have a greater influence on a larger audience. So there's no shortage of options to build your confidence in speaking in groups. All it takes is commitment to do the work, and then you have to take action to follow through. So at each stage, when you are practicing with these smaller groups or with the strangers, you will gain confidence that you need. You just have to stay committed. And once you build your confidence, then you will be ready for that bigger speech. Also, at any time, if you have any questions specific what I'm asking or sharing, please feel free to put those in the chat box, Marta. It's a wonderful opportunity for me to be able to address you directly to support you in gaining more information. So it's not what holds you back. It's not who you are that holds you back. It's who you think you're not that could hold you back. And the whole premise here is just to understand that you can really be successful when you really have the information that you need and the confidence. And we'll talk now specifically about 3 steps in terms of how to be more successful once we overcome our fears. And the first is about preparing your speech. So simply, the more information that you have will give you confidence when you get in front of an audience. So preparation is key, and we'll go through a few steps in terms of how to prepare your speech. So the first is that you want to write down your main points. This will help you to clarify in your mind what you're going to say. So I always encourage people to, maybe you have 3 main points that you want to share with the audience. So write them down. And then you will organize your content. So once you know what your main points are, then you create an outline for the information that you will share. The next is to prepare props or handouts. So this will help you in terms of gaining attention of the audience, but it can also help them to have something to refer to during your presentation. It gives them something tangible as well. The 4th step is to try to be creative. This will not only make you memorable, but of course it will help to enhance your presentation. I provide training on emotional intelligence, and one of the key points in that presentation is to be able to manage your emotional temperature. And one of the demonstrations I use is filling a glass with water. And then I use dye and pour in dye drop by drop. So we see that the water starts to change colors from light to dark. And so I use that as an example as I'm talking through the presentation. And that's one way that I am creative in conveying that information. And people really remember that. You also, in preparation, want to connect with your audience. So one way that you can do that is to tell a story. People love stories. It gives them something that they can relate to, and it also helps them to remember your information as well. Use humor. I always tell people you want to be yourself. So if you are naturally kind of comedic or funny person, and maybe it's not that you're, I'm not saying that you're a comedian, but you know that you can make people smile through some of the things that you say. You want to use that personality so that you can connect with your audience. Of course, in preparing your speech, you want to include something new. People want to feel that when they attended your presentation, whether it was for work or whether it was during an association meeting or maybe a business meeting, that they gained something new. They want you to value their time, and they want to leave feeling that they've learned something. So be sure to do that. Maybe you include some statistics, a quote, or some information that they can walk away feeling that it was very resourceful for them to attend. And then, of course, you have to do your research. So if you are using information that is referenced through a quote, or if you want to quote information in terms of statistics, then you want to do that research. And I would say also not just research on the data, but research on your audience. So when I am preparing presentations, I want to know who's going to be listening. Are they executive level employees? Are they staff? What type of work do they do? uh, what responsibilities do they have? I will even ask what types of questions they may have that I could answer through my presentation. So it's important for you to do your research, because that really helps you in preparation. Now, here is an example of what your speech outline could look like. So there's different parts to this speech outline, and I'm going to get my little cheat sheet so I can read it better. But your outline should start with, again, your three general points, and it will have an introduction, so that will be some kind of information that can get their attention. It's introducing the topic. You might have a credibility statement or share a central idea of the information that you are presenting. So I usually, in one presentation that I do that's called Girl Power, and it's about, women being able to increase their career success by their voice and branding themselves, and having persistence, and the importance of us excelling in our careers. And I begin that presentation talking about how women are underrepresented in corporate America, in terms of only 6% of Fortune 500 CEOs are on boards, and men are 85% more likely than women to be VPs or C-suite executives by mid-career. So, that's an attention getter. And then I say that has to change. And then I talk about, stories of women who have been successful and how you can do that. So you want to have some attention getter in the beginning. And then you transition into your first point. So your body of information through your presentation will have your main points. It's going to be supported with evidence from your research. So you have some examples. As I was mentioning with the Girl Power presentation, the example that I used was one of Ursula Burns, who was the former CEO of Xerox Corporation, and I talked about how she has girl power. You want to use some narratives or testimonies. So I used testimonies that I took off of my own LinkedIn profile and shared them in the presentation. Of course, substantiate with facts and statistics, and just as I've used in this presentation, some quotations. And then always state the sources of your information. First of all, that adds credibility to your presentation, but it also provides the attendees to have a reference to review further information afterwards. And then organize it in a very logical structure. So you, of course, don't want to be all over the place when you're presenting. It should follow a format that is easy for your audience to grasp the information. And then you will transition into your conclusion. So your conclusion ties to the purpose and the main points that you put together. It brings closure to your speech, restates the purpose. So you will notice at the end of many presentations, the presenter might say, and in conclusion, let's review. And then they will go through those main points. It also will reiterate why the topic is relevant, because you're bringing back to this is why this information is necessary and why I've shared it with you. As well, the conclusion can be an interesting quotation, an antidote, or some other reference to what you shared in the beginning of the speech. So with the girl power presentation that I did at the end, I talk about you know, what the future could look like in terms of women in more senior leader positions and how we can support one another, bringing back that earlier point. How you doing, Marta? You're okay? Any questions? The second is preparing your speech. And of course, uh, this is about your whole preparation in terms of delivering. So we talked about how to put your presentation together, and now it is time to actually get ready to deliver. So let's go over a few key points here. One of the things that you can do to prepare is to make note cards. So I'm using note cards right now because you can't always remember all of your information. Sometimes you can just plainly forget information. And so it's important that if you need to make notes, that will help you. And then practice. So I still practice often my presentations, and I know many others do as well, especially for your beginning presentations, your first time. You really want to practice, and you can do that in a few ways. Practice out loud for sure. You can practice with someone, and you really want to get your timing together because that's important. People who run over in presentations, you don't leave a good feeling with those individuals. So you want to be able to practice your timing, and also you want to, do a good run through. So when you're preparing, make your note cards, then practice, and then get feedback. So who will you ask? Ask someone, what they think about your presentation, and use that feedback to support you in improving and maybe making some changes. Sometimes I practice and get feedback from my husband. Well, a lot of times. And ask them, what did I do well, or what could be different, so that you can be prepared. And then lastly, I tell people to write and visualize on your success. That's very important when you're preparing because it helps you to center your mind and you're thinking, this will work well. I will share good information. So you want to visualize successfully presenting your information and how it will be received and how you will deliver it and how people will be enlightened and learn from the information that you are sharing. Okay? And then, let me see. You're saying you're okay. Info is great. All right, thank you. And the next is delivering your speech. Okay? So this is a big day. You want to remember that you've spoken before. Most people, especially those who will participate in this webinar on replay as well, it's not your first time speaking, right? So remember that you've prepared, and also that you've practiced. So now let's talk about delivering your presentation. You want to warm up. This is key. As I mentioned, I speak for, well, let's just say last year I delivered maybe 400 different presentations. And I want to tell you, every single time I was backstage or in the back of the room warming up, like jumping, pumping myself up. Adrian, you can do this. On my way, I'm like listening to my favorite music to get me in the mood, to get me jazzed up. I'm saying affirmations. So you want to warm yourself up. No, you won't look silly. I'm telling you, if you know Tony Robbins, who is a very well-respected coach and motivator and speaker. You know, he gets like 100,000 people to attend his seminars. He's in the back. He says he is like jumping around. He's shadow boxing. So it gets your adrenaline going. It gets you, you know, pumped up so that you have the energy to deliver your speech. Even if it's just to some of your colleagues, go into the bathroom and give yourself a pep talk because it's important. It's a representation of who you are, and you always want to be putting your best foot forward. Of course, smile and smile often. I make a conscious note to do that. I once worked in customer service and it was over the telephone, but we were even taught then to smile as you talk. It just makes your tone and your voice more inviting, more encouraging, and seem less monotone as well as boring, right? And then make eye contact. That's important. When you're delivering your speech, ask questions. So many times, and just like I did with you, I said, Marta, how you doing? So many times there might be information that you're sharing and you might say, so in the beginning of this, if I were doing this in front of a live audience, I would say, what's the number one problem that you have or barrier that you have in terms of delivering presentations? So you just like throw out questions because that helps to get your audience engaged. In terms of delivering the speech, before I started this slide, I could have said, so what would you say are some of the best things to do when you're delivering a speech? So you get your audience engaged. And here's the big thing. If you make a mistake, keep going. Remember, first of all, you're the authority, you're the expert, you know the information. Most times people won't even know that you made a mistake. So just keep going. There's been a time or two where I've made a mistake or misquoted a statistic, and I'll go back and I'll say in my head, that statistic wasn't 5%, it was 10%. As I'm like on the next slide, but I just keep going. Enjoy yourself. So even if you are in, let's say, a business meeting and you're talking about the budget, and you are the person that is leading that meeting to, give out the financial report, you can still enjoy yourself because everything is in your presentation. So, when you know your information, when you've prepared, then you can feel comfortable and enjoy as you're delivering and not feel stressed. Also, when you're preparing, you're thinking about what kinds of questions people might ask. So you can feel confident, and that helps you to enjoy the delivery of your presentation. And of course, have positive body language and move. So have you been to a presentation where someone stands behind the podium and they just read, right? That's boring. That doesn't get your audience engaged. You want to move and move about the stage, move within the audience. I would even say when I present to some organizations and I'm in the conference room, I will walk around the table, put my hand on the back of someone's chair, so, you want to move because if people stay just staring straight ahead, first of all, they start to get restless. So be positive in your body language as well. Okay, and then what's our next slide? Our next slide is now you delivered the presentation, and I always tell people it's good to debrief. So you want to have a review, and what that can do is to enable you to focus on the positive aspects, so the things you did really well. And one of the ways that you can get is to review your recordings. I will often record myself from my cell phone, which no one else can know. I use it's a tool that's called audio or vocal, whatever it's called. But I use that and record myself, so afterwards I can hear my presentation and I can find ways that I can improve the next time. Of course, you want to get feedback. So be sure to, ask someone that was sitting in the back of the room who didn't look like they were that engaged. You might be surprised to learn that they were, or take some feedback from them that will help you to improve the next time. But always remember that you will get better. The more you present, better you get. It's like anything, practice makes perfect. So sometimes your practice is in front of individuals, but it's still practice because it's practice for the next one. So it always gets better. You will always build your confidence, and you will always feel, um, be able to grow in this craft. All right, and then it's time to get booked. Now, this is specifically for individuals who are looking for speaking opportunities outside of their current company. And it's not even just so, for individuals who might be, you know, it's not that you're trying to be a public speaker, but I am also a career coach. And one of the things that I've shared with individuals is to be better in your career. You want to find opportunities outside of your organization to grow as well. So maybe you're a part of, the National Association of Professional Women, or you're a part of Toastmasters, or there's another organization, Ladies Speak. You will use those opportunities even as a professional, or of course any nonprofit organization, they're always looking for great speakers. You can use those opportunities to build your skills in those areas so that you can be better and a greater presenter in your career. So that when your boss says, hey, we've got to give a presentation to the board, or if your manager says, I'd like to deliver this presentation to a new client. See, if you've had that practice on the outside, that will help. But in terms of getting booked, to find opportunities, once you're really great, they will find you. And this is just an example of how when you increase your skills and become known as a speaker, then opportunities, you might not always have to look. So this was in my inbox a couple weeks ago from LinkedIn. Hi, Adrian. I'm reaching out to you for a speaking opportunity. My company is partnering with one of their large members on a summit for a local business community. We're looking for amazing speakers, wondering if you're available, right? So once you establish yourself as a great speaker, then opportunities will find you. And it will make it easier for you to be able to share your great information and encourage other individuals. Tell them about your organization if it is a business or nonprofit. It really will help you to grow. All right. So when you get booked, you want to ask and inform. And again, this is more speaking on the business side, but in terms of if you were a small business or a corporate individual. But I would say, even for you personally, if you're looking for new opportunities to speak and to grow your presentation skills, you got to advertise and inform. That means you have to put things out on the social media sites to say, I'm able, or offer your services. And you can offer your services for free. So that's how most people start, just so you know. Because if you don't have a repertoire, then you will grow your skills by offering free services, record your information, create a webinar, partner with other people, participate in the panel, and join organizations. Those are ways that you can get booked as a speaker. So in summary, you've got to believe in yourself, practice, prepare, review afterwards and before, then you get booked and you celebrate. And you do it all over again. So that is the information that I wanted to share today on public speaking, the persuasion, because persuasion is the new currency. You have to be able to influence other people to take action, regardless of what your professional setting is. And the way that you can do that is through your presentation and speaking skills. So lastly, I want to share that the Tri-County Community Network has a effort or initiative called the Amazing Raise. And last October, we raised over $104,000 in 24 hours for the members of TCN and with the members of TCN. So the initiative was that we not only wanted to support our community nonprofit organizations and their fundraising efforts, but we also wanted to promote a spirit of philanthropy in our region. And that is from Holly, who is our executive director. So if your organization is not a part of TCN or a part of the Amazing Raise, I want to encourage you to do so, because $104,000 was raised in 24 hours that was split between the member organizations that participated based on their individual donations. And you are saying, look, I got to get my glasses on. Thanks, I can use some info on my daily work with individual clients. Will you share your slide? And where do you access past webinars? So some of our past webinars are on YouTube, the TCN YouTube channel, as well as some are on our website. I will email them to you because I have your information since you have registered. And I'll let you know that we just have 2 more events coming up in case you're interested, Marta. March 20th is our monthly meeting, 8 o'clock at Connections on High. And then April 10th is my next webinar. And we're going to be talking about increasing your online influence. So, how do you make yourself an authority and get more engagement through some of these online platforms? So do you have any more questions? Thank you so much for joining. This has been recorded, and I will make sure that it's downloaded and available within the next couple of days. I appreciate your participation. Thank you. Have a wonderful day. Okay, fantastic. See you at the next webinar. Okay. And tell your friends. Share the invite and have others join. Bye-bye.